So, I've been wanting to talk about JoJo for quite a while now, ever since I finished the anime, and I started on JoJo Part 5. And this is like the perfect opportunity for me to kind of slide into JoJo on YouTube. And I found that this death battle was just absolutely atrocious. Like, with Naruto or Dragon Ball or anything of the sort, you can tell that death battles kind of being a little bit more edgy, right? They're a little bit more on guard about it. But it seems like they kind of let their guard down and just kind of slew whatever shit they could on this death battle, and to make Kenshiro win when they couldn't come up with any like proper arguments to prove Kenshiro wins. And to be quite honest, Kenshiro is a lot more powerful than Jotaro. The way they went about this is stupid, and I'm going to explain why it's complete misinformation and why their researcher should probably be fired. Like, it's 2018 and this is still happening. So basically, to start things off, they say that Jotaro punches diamonds. They say Jotaro has 3 million tons of attack potency, and that Kenshiro should destroy Jotaro because Kenshiro tanks 1,000 tons of a building level falling on him. I don't know if you know this or not, ScrewAttack, or what's his name, Nick, the researcher that made these arguments, but 3 million is a lot larger than 1,000 by a pretty substantial margin. I don't know I don't know how much I need to point that out. And then they also said 100 punches in a few seconds for Kenshiro. Now, you'll notice throughout the video they kind of avoided talking about Kenshiro's speed, and they did it for good reason. I'm gonna get more of that later, but 100 punches in a few seconds for Kenshiro, and Jotaro is arguably light speed with Star Platinum, and they say he's arguably light speed using Zongwu, even though Zongwu is not what Jotaro used to fight Silver Chariot or Polnareff the first time. So that argument is weird. But basically what you have here is 3 million tons versus 1,000 tons, arguably light speed versus arguably Mach. Yet the one that's almost thousands of times weaker and millions, possibly billions of times slower, if not far more, wins due to pure combat headcanon. So ScrewAttack's argument isn't even consistent within itself. Like, I can understand, like, oh, Seth, you know, not everybody knows about all this scaling, blah, 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 but you should at least be, like, mentally consistent within your own argument. Like, how are you going to tell me 5 is greater than 3? Like, it's just, once you make up your own calcs, I get it, you make up your own calcs, but you should still realize that one number is larger than another, and it needs to explaining, right? That doesn't make any sense. But to getting onto like the proper debunk, just kind of outside of their own stupidity, they claim that diamonds give Jotaro 3 million tons of force. I don't know where they got this video from of like this hydraulic press pressing a diamond. I've looked everywhere for videos on this, and most of these videos are fake, because I hate to break it to you, but the largest diamonds in the world are like basically hand-sized. So if this diamond is legit that big, that diamond's worth like millions of dollars and would be like almost priceless, especially because it's perfectly cut as well. So not only did this, you know, video get the largest one of the largest diamonds on the planet, it was a perfectly cut largest diamond on the planet, and then they just squished it for science. So I don't know if I need to explain why why I'm skeptical about that, and I'd like to see a source. Also,
hey, broke it.
But as you can see, this grown old man clearly has millions of tons of attack potency because he's breaking this diamond with a hammer. But jokes aside, diamonds are very scratch resistant, but they are also extremely brittle. So they can be crushed or dismantled relatively easily. I thought that was like middle school knowledge, but I guess not. This video that they showed seems to be like some kind of polymer, not really a actual diamond. I would like to see the source of that for sure. They also kind of brought up a no limit stand fallacy. So they didn't really go with it per se, but they didn't try to debunk it either, which is very interesting because in their Naruto vs Ichigo video, they went out of their way to debunk planetary Ichigo and Naruto for no reason, but they didn't bother debunking the no limit stand fallacy. This kind of went with it. So no limits fallacy is where you say that something is unbeatable because it hasn't never been beaten before. So, well, for example, this sword can cut through everything in a verse where everyone's basically only able to chop down trees or something. So, you know what? You see someone who's just outerversal, just completely not even bound by the concepts of dimensions or space. And you know what? My tree level sword, since it's never been shown not to be able to cut through something, it just cuts through infinite infinities and beyond. It just goes full Buzz Lightyear on this dude and chops him in half because no limits though. And it's also like with the no limits for stands is very interesting because stands will throw buildings at each other or bulldozers, which is basically just like the environment or nature. It has nothing to do with the stand and it hurts other stands. Well, that's clearly a stand hurting a stand, right? So it is a little bit weird to kind of go with that assumption. It's kind of like, okay, put the stand user inside of a bubble, okay? It's a invulnerable bubble, and then his stand is outside of the bubble. So the user of the stand is safe, the stand is outside. And then this being comes in, and remind you, this stand is basically just like building level, right? If a building falls on top of it, it's gonna get hurt. This being comes into the universe, and he just wipes the universe of everything but the guy in the bubble. Are you going to tell me that this building level stand is going to survive the universe being erased because the guy that erased the universe isn't a stand? Very, very interesting stance you would have to take there. So other than that, they kind of try to downplay Star Platinum's, I would like to say IQ here. It's more like combat experience, but it's a bit of both because they bring up the rat scene from JoJo Part 4, and I've gotten to a lot of arguments with people about this, but it's basically the reason why JoJo Part 4 was almost ruined for me, because it was just so badly written. It made no sense at all, and I'm going to explain it real quick. So, what happens in this rat scene is Jotaro and Josuke from Part 4 and meet this rat that has a stand of its own, and the rat takes cover behind this rock, and it's like sniping Jotaro and Josuke. And Jotaro's like, alright, I'll run up the hill and like get its attention, and you try to snipe it with your stand with some bullets I have here. Now it's like, okay, first of all, this premise is very strange. These characters do move at the speed of light, which I'm going to be proving right after this, by the way. If you don't know, the speed of light lets you travel around the entire planet 7 times in 1 second. Jotaro is the speed of light, and he can pause time for 2 through 5 seconds. Meaning he can move around the planet, or he has enough speed to move around the planet 14 through 35 times in a second. Now, his stand doesn't have the range for that, but that's just like the level of speed we're dealing with here. And it should also be noted that Jotaro comes from, you know, the Joestars, and he's basically a rival to Joseph in his prime, at least IQ-wise. And Joseph was able to outsmart the Pillar Men, whose IQs were absolutely retardedly high. Like, even like their watchdog, like Pillar Men, like the lowest of the low, was able to learn an entire language by hearing a few words, which is literally impossible. And then Cars had an IQ of like 400. So here you have Jotaro, who can move at the speed of light, if not greater, as I'm going to prove later, and he's able to stop time to dodge these needles this rat is blowing at him. So he stops time, right? He stops time to dodge the needles. So you're telling me this guy with an IQ probably like 300 is stopping time at the speed of light, sees the trajectory of the needle, but can't figure out where the rat is by himself and then blitz over behind the rock? It's just, it's ridiculous. And I understand that the author of, JoJo is trying to go for, well, power of a stand isn't everything. Sometimes you need strategy and friendship and yeah, but the scene just does not make sense, and it is not a valid retort to Jotaro's like combat ability whatsoever. It's pure plot-induced stupidity, and it's terrible writing. You're never gonna convince me otherwise. And now, getting on to the Lightspeed Jotaro thing, it's very interesting that ScrewAttack kind of used, they kind of copped out. They're like, yeah, the guide here that we just pointed out on the screen, yeah, it says Jotaro's faster than light, but, oh, yeah, Polnareff, he intercepted a light speed attack. Well, if he's really the speed of light, then, why did he need a plan to catch him? That was their whole argument. And for one, I would just like to say that you have used a guide to say someone's light speed before. You literally said Naruto was the speed of light just because it said, like, he dodged the light fang in the 4th data book, but Polnareff intercepting a light speed attack just like kind of Naruto did with an attack confirmed the speed of light. It's almost the same thing, if not way more in Polnareff's favor, because Polnareff had to go a longer distance than the speed of light had to there. And if you watch the anime for Polnareff, it slows down and you see the beam of light moving slowly through the screen, and then Polnareff just zips onto the screen with Silver Chariot. Like, faster, he travels faster than the beam of light on frame. But Naruto just kind of aim dodging the light fang, which I've proven is still light speed reaction, but still is supposed to be a better feat. And not only that, but Silver Chariot is wearing armor here, so when he takes his armor, he becomes even faster. And then the guide just says Jotaro's faster than the speed of light, and then you just say no. So that's bad. That's bad. I understand why they're doing it once again, and it's because Kenshiro has no speed feats. I also watched ScrewAttack's like post death battle recording. It's like their little meeting they always have afterwards, and they're talking about if Star Platinum was the speed of light, and they kind of doubled down on their ignorance. They went into detail. They're like, oh well, guides aren't always the word of law, but it kind of applies as to what I said before. It's like, well, you've accepted way less before. You've accepted way lesser forms of evidence. Like, with Naruto, it's like, in the 4th data book, he dodged the light fang. But in that same data book, it says the light fang is undodgeable. So it's like, yeah, it's probably the speed of light, and he did dodge it, but how is that more evidence than Polnareff dodging the speed of light or intercepting it from a longer distance as a actual feat and not just a subjective dodging reaction time feat? I do not see the logic or train of logic here at all. It's pretty ridiculous. And no, time stop is not what's the speed of light. When you stop time, you stop time. So for example, it's not the speed of light, because if it was the speed of light, Dio wouldn't be like, oh, Jotaro moved or whatever in time stop. He would just be like, it should be frozen. Everything should be absolutely motionless. There should be no movement. I mean, you could say that things at the speed of light make everything look motionless, but not when you're fighting a fighter who's relative to your speed. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So I guess now I'll kind of touch up on the death battle and what I think myself. What do I think about Kenshiro versus Jotaro, right? And personally, I have to say that the 1,000-ton durability feat for Kenshiro is absolute downplay. It's not even in the manga. That's anime filler only, and I don't know what everyone thinks about anime filler. It's kind of different for each anime. So like Dragon Ball Super's anime is canon, Dragon Ball Kai is canon, but then again, like Naruto has an anime and only some parts of it are canon. And it's like, what about Fist of the North Star? Is its anime even canon? Can you prove it is? And it's just very, very hard to do so. A better way to go about it is that many characters, or there have been characters in Fist of the North Star that have tanked nuclear bombs, and by scaling Raoh is way stronger than them, and Kenshiro is able to beat, Raoh with like 30% power, even though he scales to be higher than a character. I think it was Jing who tanked a nuclear bomb, which is multiple megatons of force, by the way, possibly higher. And also, Raoh was also capable of creating a supercell cloud, which may be, scalable to have enough energy as a country level attack in terms of just raw energy. Like, I don't know if you guys know how much energy, hurricanes or massive tornadoes have, but it's absolutely astronomical. And I'll put a few calcs in the description if you guys are interested in learning more about that. But there's also some speed feats as well to go over. So they said, Kenshiro, they just kind of slapped it out because, like I said before, they don't want to go over speed because the normies will then, not think their death battle is the ultimate answer to the battle. They have to be the last person, to say anything. So, the 100 punches in a few seconds is ridiculous when you consider the fact that Kenshiro has casually slapped out thousands of pressure points in an instant on panel. It's like literally stated. And there also is a nice speed feat as well where Kenshiro attacks Zongwu, and Zongwu notices the attack hits him after the attack is already drawing blood from his head. And the skin's only so skin is only so thin, so there's only so much space left before this attack hurts Zongwu. Then he proceeds to dodge the attack, which was stated a hair's breadth away from killing him, and then attempts to hit Kenshiro after dodging a good distance away. And even if you assumed Kenshiro was suppressed and only moving at like subsonic speeds, which is the low ball for being faster than the eye can process information in quick succession, this would require hypersonic speeds depending on how you calc it due to the minimal amount of space Zong had to react in and how far he moved from the strike afterwards. Kenshiro even leaves behind a physical afterimage while only using a fraction of his abilities. So, in the end, for me, this battle is kind of like a T-Rex chasing around a fly, right? The fly can dodge around for however long it wants, but the fly is never going to hurt the T-Rex. It can try, it never will. And the fly will die from its own stamina lost within at least a day or two. And this T-Rex, as stated in the data books, has 3 months of stamina. Versus, this fly that has like a day's worth at most if you highball it. So, that's the battle. Kenshiro, even if you say he can't hit, Jotaro, if it's to the death, he's going to win the battle of attrition. Jotaro cannot create any plan to kill Kenshiro. It's basically impossible. Unless you state that they have this crazy battlefield and he can like construct some device after running away, even though that's basically Jotaro's speed is only really in combat, not travel, because Star Platinum can only move 6 meters, so it's not like he can really run away from Kenshiro that much either. And yeah, it's just not looking good for Jotaro. Yeah, I agree Kenshiro wins, but the way this death battle went about it is completely ridiculous. Anyways, I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and I might do some more in the future, so till next time.